era tahun 80-an dulu kita memang tak banyak kemudahan infra yang ada dekat pulau.
Semasa itu kita tidak bersekolah, tak ada aktiviti lain yang boleh kita lakukan.
Dulu mana ada kedai, mana ada apa dulu. Tak ada retret, tak ada apa dulu. Dan gelap.
Dunia kanak-kanak lebih kepada aktiviti kita sendiri yang cipta. Kita tak ada telefon, televisyen masa tu.
Pergaulan bersama rakan tu memang erat lah. Sekarang dia budak-budak kita tengok asyik main telefon je.
Walaupun susah, kita sama-sama dalam kampung ni bergotong royong, bekerja sama, kalau kenduri kenara kahwin ke apa semua kan.
There's magic for me in any studio, but there's more magic on a Pembrokeshire reef. It's like going back in time. You've got the ancient forces. You can feel, however many millennia later, the fire and the ice that have forged this land. But there's something, feeling that you're just scratching the surface with just how deep it all goes.
Berada di laut bagaikan terapi untuk saya. Tempat yang damai dan tempat di mana saya merasakan benar-benar hadir pada sebuah momen. Keluarga sangat berarti bagi saya. Saya akan selalu melakukan yang terbaik untuk membantu mereka. Saya ingin mempelajari lebih lanjut tentang perikanan untuk membantu keluarga saya dan menciptakan lebih banyak keadilan bagi para nelayan di desa saya.
Bapak dulu pintar mancing. Ya dulu karena masih banyak ikan dan nelayan masih kurang. Jadi ya memang dulu ya kita ikan banyak dan sangat ya kita cuma pakai ini keong kecil, komang itu kita buang saja sudah dapat. Ya susah juga karena mungkin dengan adanya perubahan iklim yang kita harus sebenarnya dulu kita cuma dayun 102 meter dari tepian kampung kita sudah bisa mendapat ikan yang lumayan banyak dan bisa sampai bisa menjual, tetapi sekarang kok masih susah mencari ke sini tidak dapat, akhirnya kita harus ke laut yang lepas.
Sedini Faraher. Sokolekitera taloha mampilitsy vokatry 1 kilo sanandro. Ihanan'izao fa mihena mare sy nanaky ty taloha ny maro. Inan'izao njaty ahita enta kilo folo lahasosoko.
Narako grametra 20 tao zana natin kukurita ansiakenge nahazo roe raiky bevata igny raiky toy ambanimbany tsy manaky ty taloha ty henany taloha mba nisinisy henany zao io nalefa fakelekely avao tamindesy tena aleo zany mba somary serezevre maharitsy zany mba hitombo taranaky reo.
Halos lahat dito umasa talaga sa dagat kasi katulad dito sa amin ito ay isla lang. Walang iba kami pwedeng mapuntahan kundi puro talaga sa dagat.
Sa kinagisnan pa nila simula sa kanilang mga magulang ay yun na ang naiturong hanap buhay sa kanila hanggang naipasa sa mga anak hanggang sa mga kapwa-apuhan.
Right, and we are live. Welcome to the video storytelling webinar and a great week of the Ocean Guardians Film Festival, a festival inspired by our partners and how they use video in communicating impact. So this festival and webinar serves to celebrate you all. My name is Randall Mabwa. I'll be your host for the day. I'm a science communicator, filmmaker, storyteller, and marine biologist. I'm part of the team that is impact stories, and we basically bring out community voices to the front. Now, a little bit about me. In research to show that solutions are available to solutions with policy through impactful storytelling. But enough about me. As your host today, I'll be working with a great team, tech team behind the scenes, Matthew Judge and Megan Francis. Now on to the video storytelling webinar that we are on right now, Chocotelo. Some of you might be familiar with Chocotelo, some of you not so much. And for those who remember Chocotelo, Chocotelo was basically a series of interactive webinars that Blue Ventures ran, starting from the COVID era and covering topics relevant to conservation. Chocotelo means to bring together. If some of you are aware of the 3 stones that you use to cook back in the village that hold a pot together, that means, so in order to achieve great things, we put the stones together and we bring the pot and we start brewing something or cooking something. So ideally, we should bring together our ideas to make sure everything works well, which is what Chocotelo implies, and that is a Malagasy phrase. I'll jump straight on to some housekeeping. Number 1, so please feel free to use the chat function, which is on. I see some new faces joining, some faces that I know. Feel free to say hi, ask questions, but above all, please keep it respectful, considering that this is a public live stream, which will be available after the event. And as you all keep streaming in, I just want to mention that we'll celebrate our community of ocean storytellers through a twin festival and webinar experience, starting with this webinar that we're on right now, and a whole month of the film festival, the Ocean Guardians Film Festival. And one thing that I hope we can do is to learn from each other and to share ideas and also celebrate a lot of successes that we have. And above all, be encouraged to go out and make more films and make them better. Now, if you haven't grabbed your tickets, please go ahead. There's a link on the screen that's just popped up. Please go ahead and head on straight to the festival page and access daily content. Now, for the rest of this week, there will be new content that will be uploaded every day. So please be sure to check those out and see how different communities and different organizations tell stories. And just to reiterate that it's open for the rest of the month. So there's plenty of time for all of us to enjoy films. So please keep coming back. And I can see a lot of you streaming in from different sections of the world. Welcome. And as we proceed, I'd just like to ask you something to think about before we go on to the rest of the sessions. Why do we believe storytelling is useful for conservation? Why do we believe storytelling is useful for conservation? And as we think about that, I would like to briefly introduce our speakers who have used video storytelling to supercharge their impactful work. Now, for our 3 amazing speakers, we have Amber Carter, who's from the University of Edinburgh, and Sea Voice, who's joining us live from Toronto this morning. Hi, Amber, just wave. Good. And then joining us from Amsterdam is Chiara Pizzi of Waterbear.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Chiara. And finally, our speaker from Nairobi, Deborah Aroko from Video Consortium. Welcome, Deborah.
Hi.
But before we do go into the panel and the presentations, here's a little teaser to kick us off. Thank you and welcome.
Dive down into this magical world and you will be amazed.
Nikiwa mdogo sana, kama miaka 17 iliyopita.
Fungsi ganda ya, sambil melaut juga berkebun. Sambil berkebun juga melaut.
In other, the ocean is a vital resource for us and fishing is deeply rooted in our history.
Sebagai hadiah dari buaya-buaya serang, mereka memberikan ikan parang-parang.
Amazing. I hope you're all supercharged as I am and excited just by seeing those teasers. But let's dive right into our three presentations, first of which comes from Amber Carter. Our first speaker, Amber, is a marine scientist, a storyteller, an award-winning explorer whose work lies at the crossroads of ocean conservation and human societies. Her research recognizes the intrinsic link between environmental and social challenges, where she advocates for solutions that addresses both the environment and social challenges. Now, her work is guided by the principles of inclusivity and social justice, and Amber is committed to breaking down traditional research barriers which limit the application and use of scientific research to support locally led solutions in communities at the forefront of the ocean and climate emergency. Now, her work has led her to use storytelling and filmmaking not only as methods to document that work, but also to advocate and build up advocacy, which are crucial tools that inform her research. Now, Amber's work has taken up some of the most remote places on Earth, and this is where I'm a bit jealous. She's been diving with tiger sharks around the oceanic islands of Mexico to study unique coral communities, my favorite, to leading filmmaking projects in collaboration with traditional fishing communities in the remote regions of Madagascar and Indonesia. Before Amber comes on, I'd just like to remind the audience, feel free to post your questions in the chat, but we'll also have a Q&A right after each presentation. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you. Thank you, Randall. Thank you so much, Randall, and thank you. Hello to everyone here. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Okay. Actually, oh, is that okay for everyone? Okay, I think that's fine. Sorry, I'm just struggling with two different screens here. Okay, perfect. Matt, is that you sharing the screen now? Yes, okay. All right, brilliant. So yeah, thanks very much. I am here to speak about a method that I started using for community-led filming called participatory video. And in particular, I'm going to focus on a project that I did in collaboration with Blue Ventures in Southwest Madagascar. Okay, Matt, if you go to the next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, I'll dive right in. I'm going to talk a bit about what led me to start using participatory video, or sometimes like you talk about it, call it community-led filmmaking. The aims and objectives of the Voices of Azo project, and then I'm really going to dive into the process of how we produce these community-led films and the outputs. And then I'm going to briefly mention how we use this method in other parts of the world in another project, and then talking about all the exciting learning and opportunities that I think we can use participatory video for. Okay, so yeah, that was a wonderful and very generous introduction from Randall. So just to give you a little bit more context, I guess, of how I arrived at using filmmaking as a scientist doing my PhD. So yeah, I was working in Southwest Madagascar, and I've always been incredibly youth-inspired by my work. I've always been a scientist that really wants the research to be relevant and useful to the communities that I'm working alongside. And unfortunately, I think kind of traditional scientific structures and typical ecological and social research isn't always that, and it can be quite hard to do that. So it was actually during COVID where I couldn't go to Madagascar for 2 years, and I started to feel really disconnected, disheartened, and really questioning my work. And so I wanted to use something where not only I needed to be collecting data for to write my thesis at the end of the day, but I really wanted to do something where I could co-produce knowledge with the communities. I could co-create something, and then the output would not just be data that I then took away and bought back in another, or repackaged in through my lens, but something where an output would really be available and being able to be kind of immediately owned by the people that I was working with in Madagascar. And so, yeah, that is how I arrived at a participatory video. Next slide, please, Matt. Yeah, so that little map just shows where we're working in the southwest Madagascar, and what were the aims and objectives of Voices of the Vezo. So I kind of identified 3 objectives. First was to document the local knowledge of ecological and social change. So in coastal Madagascar, it's like throughout the global tropics, the ecosystem and and how society relates to that ecosystem really has changed beyond recognition in over the last century. Yet in lots of these places there's a low culture of written documentation, unlike potentially where I live in the UK. And so I found it interesting that film could be used a way to document that knowledge, because the key kind of way of sharing knowledge is storytelling there. So it was a kind of that was the first aim. And then the second 2 were more about, okay, what were the other uses of these films? And I think that could be really relevant to all the different NGOs here. It's kind of creating this platform to share stories and knowledge and engaging communities in conversations around, that says marine conservation, but it should really say marine conservation, but sustainable management of their natural marine resources. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the 7 steps of the participatory video process. This is something that I was inspired by people that had other groups and organizations that had done it in the past. And then we have now done the participatory video in 7 different communities. So I think we've really been able to refine the kind of steps. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. Okay, so planning. Considering I'd never made any films or done anything like this before I started doing Voices of the Vezo, planning was really key. I think, and I've kind of listed these as key considerations that I try to think about in every project. So partners and facilitators, that's without a doubt the most important thing. The places where I've done participatory video and I'm planning to do it, I've always worked with a local NGO or an NGO that's worked locally for a while and have really good, strong, trusting relationship with the community. And so this project, Voices of the Vezo, I co-led it with Symphorian, who's in the red t-shirt there, and he grew up in the southwest region of Madagascar. He is Vezo. He's also a filmmaker, so he really has he had incredible knowledge to support this project, and I couldn't have done it without him. And for example, he facilitated the sessions in Vezo, and we also had other local people working with us as well to help facilitate some of the workshops, which I'll go more into in a minute. Equipment, it took me a while to figure out what equipment I was going to use, and I ended on using iPhones. You can get, compared to camera equipment, you can get iPhones relatively cheap, secondhand. They've got amazing video capability. And even in rural and remote regions of the world, what I found is that people do have familiarity with the controls of a smartphone. So even if they've not done filmmaking before, they can pick up the controls pretty easily. Community relationships, I think that goes down to the trust again, and kind of considering who you should be asking permissions for. We've always asked permission from the local council, from the village president. and explain to them the process of what we were going to do. Workshop location and logistics. It's really important, we found, to have a kind of single place that's your base, that you do all the training and people can come back to. It kind of becomes your hub. Translation and production So actually at Voices of the Vaso, the translation was a little bit of a challenge because depending if you want your film to be translated or not, I knew that I needed them to be translated because I needed to use some of the things for my PhD, but also I wanted to share the films wider than Madagascar, so thinking about how that's going to be done, and also a calendar. So I'm going to go a bit more into the timeline later, but really. No, that's good. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so the first stage is training. So in Voices of the Vaso, we worked with youth groups. We did it in 4 different communities. And the first thing we would do would be we would have training workshops. So these would last between 2 and 3 days. In these workshops, we'd introduce camera skills, we talk about framing, we talk about how to frame interviews, different ways to do it. We talk about how to do interviews, what's like the interesting questions that they could be up by asking. We talked about storytelling and kind of how storytelling can be used to get their message across. And we talked about the topic. So in Voices of the Vaso, it was quite a directed topic. We wanted to make the films about how the ecosystem has changed, the marine ecosystem, and how this was impacting Vaso lives, and also understand the community views on marine management and their hopes for the futures and their perception of and things like that. So we'd have quite an in-depth discussion about that to get the group talking about those issues before they went out and did the interviews. Okay. And then during this time, so kind of the whole workshop and filming process in this case would take about 5 days. So during the training, the groups would start to go out and do the filming. So we would, I think a way that we found is best to do this is really try to be as hands-off as possible with it, but have really regular check-ins. So we'd say, okay, go off for a couple of hours, go and film some interviews, film B-roll that you think is relevant to that interviews, and then we'd come back together and we'd check the footage. And I think this is really good because it caught any technical issues that was happening. It allowed us to have a kind of deeper discussion about what was being talked about in the interviews, and then it kind of set the group up for the next couple of hours of going out again into the village and recording more interviews. And I should say, this was a great situation because we could kind of do it on a whim. But I think there's other places where I've done it, we've had to be more do a bit more planning around the timings and things of when the groups were going to go and do the interviews with the people that they've identified they want to speak to. Okay, next slide, please, Matt. And then we come together. So after the filming process, we come together for the group edit. And this is really fun. We use large sheets of paper, post-it notes. The groups go through the footage on the phones and they start to create a story they start to create a story using the interviews, using the B-roll, and they use post-it notes to kind of lay this out. Next slide, please, Matt. And then we do the computer edit. So how this has worked in the projects that I've done is me, or in this case it was Symphorian, or both of us, we take that big sheet of paper with the post-it notes, and we would take that storyboard and put it into the computer using Premiere Pro. And I think a key thing of this is that this goes back to the timeline of the project. We would try to do this in really a short amount of time, because we found that keeping the group engaged in the project was a really good way to keep the momentum of the project going. We weren't taking the film away, editing it for a month and bringing it back. We were doing it in a couple of days, and this kind of really, I think, maintained this sense of ownership over the film. Okay, next slide, please, Matt. And then we'd share it. So yes, in kind of within that theme of the timeline again, we would build a makeshift cinema in the villages where all the filming would be done, and we'd share the film straight away. And it would be kind of a community and a community event. Next slide, please, Matt. And then we also put the films online, and really thinking about how is the most relevant and best way to share in the place that you're working or the audience you want to get the films to. So that was, for example, in Madagascar, Facebook is really, really popular, and on Facebook is where we have most views of the Voices of the Vezo films. So, and then we also put them on YouTube and some things on Instagram as well. So what were the outputs? So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go quickly. But we worked 30 youth in 4 different villages. There was 90 interviews undertaken overall, which was amazing for me as a researcher, because I had this incredible rich data about all those topics that the films were about. There were 7 short films, and we had 4 film nights. And I think, the final point there is that this wasn't my plan initially, but I found this method so powerful that, and I really saw potential in it. When I was doing it, I was really looking for guidance. So I wrote a publication that became part of my PhD about how using participatory video in these in a co-management context is, I think, a really useful tool. So I can share that at the end. Okay, next slide, Matt. And we, just to highlight, we had really incredible feedback from the filmmakers about taking part in the project, about their learning things that they didn't know before. But also, I think the most inspiring thing was this feeling motivated to take action and leadership in their local community over these issues. Now they'd made these films. So that was a key part of Voices of the Vezo. Next. Okay, and to briefly mention Kisa Kuba Raya. So we saw a lot of success with Voices of the Vezo, and decided, worked with another NGO, Planet Indonesia, in the remote area of West Kalimantan in Indonesia. And we kind of followed this method. We adapted it slightly, but just to kind of share that it really was, it really did work in these different locations, which were very different in kind of context, ecosystem, culture. Okay, and finally, the learnings of doing these participatory video projects in the different locations. Definitely kind of this balance of providing enough of support while not removing ownership or increasing biases within the films. And I think this is a delicate balance that you kind of just have to keep navigating as you go through the project. That support reaching quieter voices. So something amazing about participatory video is it really does allow people in the queue might not hear from the community much to speak up, but definitely supporting the group and encouraging that within the filmmakers is important, we found. And I think the final point I'm going to mention there is just that timeline, really keeping the timeline short around the production of the films, to keep that ownership and engagement with the project, with the local community. All right, next slide, please, Matt. Okay, and I think this is my final slide. So I should say that there's those points there, but the 2 kind of things that have happened from both these projects, which I think really show the power of them and kind of demonstrate these points, is in Voices of the Vezo. We worked in a village where there'd been lots of chat about creating a no-take zone, but I think there was a bit of the council were holding back because they didn't know if there was enough community support around it. And through this film, we showed that lots of the community were really eager to try this no-take zone, including all the fishers that were interviewed. So following the film, they implemented this no-take zone, which was amazing. And in Kisa Kuba Raya, again, we made a film about the community wanted to make a film about sustainable farming, and then they actually ended up using this film to show to the regional government And they've ended up getting basically further support to help them with improving their sustainable farming methods in this region. And I think it really demonstrates the kind of power of these films within the local context and setting. Okay, next film, next. Okay, yeah, and that's everything. Thank you so much. Yeah, all the films are available to watch on my website, and keen to hear any questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. That is amazing work. And what I really got was, with this gadget, you can tell a lot of stories.
Yeah, definitely.
But the main message that really came out of your presentation, and something that intrigued me, was we need to put more effort and support towards reaching the quieter voices, right? And only then shall we inclusively make proper impact through storytelling. I hope I summarized your work well. Thank you so much. To the audience, we'll have Q&A after the other presenters have come in, but let's jump on to our next speaker, Chiara Pizzi, who's joining us from the amazing Water Bear Network. Now,
Hi,
some of
everybody.
you know, welcome, Chiara. Sorry. Welcome, Chiara. Some of you might know Water Bear is an online streaming platform. It's a distributor. It's a studio and impact platform with a mission to transform dry documentary topics into popcorn-worthy entertainment, so that the documentary does not only inform but crucially inspires actions. Keep in mind that, because what Chiara is going to present will be quite intriguing as well. Now, Chiara serves as a senior impact manager at Water Bear Network and leads impactful documentary campaigns and manages partnerships with over 100 NGOs. Now, that's quite a lot. With over eight years of experience in creative and media industries, she brings expertise in the documentary production, communications, marketing, project management, and impact strategy. Chiara has developed global campaigns, editorial content, and communication strategies for Water Bear, a national museum, social enterprises, and arts organizations. And now you can see how her work is tapping into different sectors here. Chiara is passionate about environmental and social justice. She recharges by spending time near water, my favorite, hiking and engaging in discussions on climate change. Chiara's strategic insights will be so valuable to our community, and you'll see why, which is often made up of new filmmakers and storytellers that sometimes might be unsure of experimenting with different storytelling approaches. Welcome, Chiara. You're on.
Thanks so much, Randall. What an introduction. Wow. Thanks so much, guys. I'm really honored to be here with all of you today. And congratulations also to those submitting the documentaries for the film festival, which I had the pleasure to watch. And I also learned a lot about your missions and your organization through watching your videos, which is what I love to do. And that's why I do what I do. And my work focuses on helping nonprofits, as Randall said, but also filmmakers and brands have deeper, longer lasting impacts from storytelling. And today I'm going to talk to you about why NGOs should embrace entertainment for greater impact. Water Bear, we do believe that the current crisis is a communications crisis. And for us, our future depends on the imagination of today, which for us, it means that making a real change starts with a good story. And why we are called water bear, some of you might ask. Water bear is also known as a tardigrade and is often considered one of the most resilient creatures on Earth. Its remarkable survival abilities, and we choose to name our media platform after an animal that symbolizes hope for the future, aligning with our mission to address the climate crisis. And through our media impact platform, we aim to close the gap between knowledge and action, steering people away from doomerism. And our goal is to empower individuals with information and tools they need to take meaningful action. But I'm going to give you a bit of a sense of what we do by showing you this video clip. It's a little reel about documentaries that we have made and some of the documentaries that we have on our platform, on our streaming platform.
If this is not a state of emergency, I know not what is.
flying through the flowers and hear the birds singing in the trees.
We can't change our way out of it individually. We can only do that collectively.
Lovely. This was made also by our in-house video editor, who is a magician in editing, as you can see. And if you couldn't tell from the video, Waterbury is a documentary making company, as Randa was saying, an impact media platform. So we tell stories, distribute them, and reach new audiences to create a greater impact through storytelling. But why are we doing what we do? Of course, making documentaries and film is great, but we also see the ethical problem of making big productions. An average film is estimated to produce 500 tons of CO2, and to compare, an average one household produces 10 tons CO2 per year. So we try to make our productions as sustainable as possible. But yeah, what do we mean by that? What if we moved away from bright lights and big cities to local stories and authentic authorship? It's one of the questions that we asked ourselves when starting the company. This means we focus on local stories and local production crews. We give the mic and empower local filmmakers to tell their own story, and we give them production support and amplify their message via our platform and different communications channels. For example, next I will show you a clip about one of our Waterbury originals. This is a story never told before, a modern-day tale of the Black Mermaid, Sandile and Lovu, who is changing the perception of the ocean in her community since 2016, when she overcame her fears and fell in love with freediving. So we'll just see 1 minute of this video now.
When I was growing up, I will never forget the fear I had of drowning. We were told endless stories around why we shouldn't be anywhere near deep waters. The sardine run was a phenomena I'd heard about for years, that the world traveled to come see here in my country, and so wondered if I would ever have the opportunity to witness this wild world for myself. In this finding of the sea is the hope to inspire this exploration in Black communities with the incredible life source the ocean is.
Lovely. Yes, Zandy is amazing, an amazing filmmaker. And that was a beautiful example of how powerful a story can be when the ownership of the story is in the hands of the director, who is making you feel closer to the mission of protecting the ocean in this case. Another example of authentic authorship, but without the director being the subject of the story, is Climate Dispatches. In this 3-episode series, basically we were asked by Oxfam UK. We were commissioned by them. They came to us with their campaign, Make Polluters Pay, and they wanted to do basically video content that was supporting their campaign and could have a bigger reach than their own, echo chamber. So basically, we developed this concept, and the concept was a grassroots solution from the front line of climate change to often go unearthed, sidelined at World Summits and in the media. Making the invisible visible, Climate Dispatches are designed to raise these urgent stories through immersive audiovisual podcasts, imagined in full color by global artists, which meant that we basically took 3 Oxfam ambassadors, 3 very young activists, to tell their stories of climate resilience. And we turned their stories into 3 different animations. Thanks to basically we hired these like incredible 3 different artists, 3 different animators who work individually on these different stories. And then we combined the stories together and we got like this like mixed media, beautiful documentary that was then 15 minutes long, but also the episode could have used individually for different things. And this was a very, I'm bringing this example because this is a very versatile format, as it's like episodic series, but also then like the combined like full length documentary as well, short documentary. And a format that is so versatile basically showcases how documentary developed with different audiences in mind can be screened in different settings. So from a screening in a museum, because it's a very immersive audiovisual experience, to also bringing that at COP29. We brought that with Oxfam. We screened that in the entertainment pavilion at COP. And also we had like a panel talk with the 3 activists there. We also then take the same documentary we screened at Glastonbury, because it was such like an immersive, beautiful, like sound documentary as well that could also, appeal to a crowd of like a festival crowd. And then Oxfam currently is also using that and the episodes and the documentary for different events and also their volunteer events in the stores that they have across the UK. Mixing real stories with a creative approach also can speak to a different audience and attract also a younger audience, for example, a more Gen Z audience. So it depends on what type of audiences you have in mind when you're making a documentary and what you want to appeal to, of course. But we don't only work with NGOs. For us, it's really key to work with brands that have a purpose that is aligned to our mission and the mission of our NGOs, and that they really want to make a change. We think it's really important to harness the reach and power of brands to get our message farther. So we asked ourselves, what if brands and nonprofits are joining forces to tell the right stories? And these projects do not need always to focus on talent, celebrity, Hollywood big budgets to have the entertainment element. We really love to focus on local heroes. As you can see here, this picture is from one of our documentaries with Christoph Promberg. He's the executive director of Foundation Conservation Carpathia. And the NGO actually came to us with the idea of a documentary, that the budget in mind, but they were missing like a lot of budget, of course, as all NGOs, to make this happen. And so we looked into our network for a brand that could have like very similar mission to this NGO partner. And we saw that Jack Wolfskin actually, which is an outdoor wear brand, sustainable brand, they collaborated with them before. So basically we did the pitch of this documentary with the NGO story in mind to the brand, and we created these beautiful documentaries, 20 minutes long, and I'm gonna show you a clip now of the collaboration, and the film is called Spirit of the Forest. This is just a short clip.
The people of the villages around the Fagarash Mountains, they're mountain people. And mountain people, they have a hard life. They have to fight for their survival. These are very, very tough people. It was very easy to say, let's create the European Yellowstone. Let's make this Fagarash National Park. But obviously making a national park is a very, very complex and difficult thing. Somebody who has been his whole life up in the mountains watching after his sheep, you can't make him a tourist guide overnight. We got to be very realistic what is possible and what is not possible.
Lovely. And here I just wanted to give you like a snapshot of the results that we gained with this campaign. We not only like made the film and we distributed through our platform, but we also created like an entire campaign page, and also we did like a different like marketing push around the film, and which reached in the first few weeks 2,000 views on our platform, and was the top content and #1 content watched on our platform in November. And as a result of the campaign, also 33 ancient beech trees were adopted. The campaign was all focusing about adopting these beech trees to preserve this piece of land in the Carpathian Mountains. And the 33 seems small, but actually each donation was equal to $150 per tree. So we consider that to be quite successful. And another example that I wanted to bring to you, which this project is as less of an entertainment angle, but it is a great example of how we also try to combine a brand story with NGO storytelling, where the narrative is shaped between the collaboration of an Econ ambassador and the local NGO and community. And we call this project A Lens on the Ground. And as you can see here, we brought together in 2022 12 grassroots NGOs that were selected because they wanted to tell a particular story, and they wanted to tell these stories for their communications purposes as well. So we then provided them with like a Nikon camera kit and trainings as well from Nikon ambassadors. And we also have developed like storytelling guidelines for them to follow. As most like communications department NGOs, maybe they're not very, they don't have like huge knowledge in documentary making or video making per se. And then we gave them we provided one full account manager to follow the entire project, and I was also very heavily involved to make sure all the NGOs were happy and they were fulfilled with the help and support we provided. And you can see here some of the reviews from our NGOs. It was overwhelmingly positive. One of the NGOs, even Marine Diary, they went on then and had like even more sponsorship from Nikon afterwards. So we consider this super successful when a partner and a brand partner then goes on and supports like the NGOs directly without even us, bringing them together after we did this collaboration. And also Marine Diaries that went on to develop like their own documentaries with the Nikon camera that we provided them. And you can see a re-platform incredible NGO stories reaching nearly 100,000 people totally organically, which is amazing. And also the reach was quite high as the impression, and the engagement rate was also quite high. I need to speed up now because I don't have much time left, but I have like only a few more slides left. So what we've seen in the previous example and in the last one that I will show you in a second is that we love to tell interesting stories from a different perspective, and this can take many different forms. One project that we have done in collaboration with NGO Choose Love was this documentary fiction called Matar, which is incredibly powerful tool to tell personal stories in a different way. And one of our core questions when developing this type of format and when working with the NGOs, the NGO was like, when we shot, before shooting this film was, what if we pen new narratives both in front of and behind the lens? Representation is really key when you're telling a local community story, but what's important to us before shooting is to ask, in what way would the community actually like to be portrayed? Can you find local talent that can tell the story better than you? Is the traditional way of documentary making the best way to tell this specific story? But also, how can you cut through the noise when we are bombarded with new content on the daily, and different engaging formats as well are available to everybody on YouTube, social media. So I want to show you the clip of behind the scenes of what happened with this production.
Had these billboards about a breaking point. They were used to push the Leave EU agenda.
This film is essentially presenting an experience that many viewers would have never heard of, would have never been able to empathize with, would have never had access to. So what we're offering with film is access to a whole nother world and a whole nother perspective.
The film was, written by us, directed by us, shot by us, and edited by us, collaborating with our friends who already are in the industry, who could help us make this film together.
the great words of Hassan Akkad, who was the executive director of NGO Choose Love, but he also was a refugee when he came into the UK, and then now is a UK citizen. But the entire crew was made of people with either refugee background or with the refugee status at the moment, of the moment of shooting. Some of them, they couldn't even work, but they were just happy to collaborate, and others instead were like proper part of the local crew. They were working to tell the story as best as they could. The story was directed and also developed by them. So we gave them production support, we gave them basically distribution support, and then we created this entire like environment on our platform, which was distributing the film Matar, but also basically just curating like an entire environment with campaign curation. And we reached with this campaign more than 5,000 letters written to MPs. We collaborated to stop the refugee ban bill in UK, and we collaborated with 18 NGOs across the UK to amplify the impact by organizing screenings and events together. And in total, we had 30 plus local screenings, and we had 200,000 views only in the first weeks about the film. And this film is just an incredible example of how collaborations is really key to tell this type of stories, and also entertainment can play a huge role in telling them effectively. And so basically here we are. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and thanks for your attention. If you wanted to see any of these documentaries in full, you can go to waterbear.com and subscribe with a free account, and you can join dozens of documentaries that we have there, also about the ocean. And please feel free to reach out to me if you want to learn more about what I do, or about any documentaries on the platform. That's my email. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Kiara. My take-home collaboration. What I got really was brands and nonprofits should join forces to tell their right stories authentically and with focus. Now, one question I'd like to pose to our audience again is, wouldn't we be able to change, to impact change and actually influence, to bring about impactful change and also influence policy, impactful change. Just think about it. And finally, we have Deborah Aroko. Now, Deborah is a project coordinator for the Video Consortium's Solution Storytelling Initiative, which is an amazing program in which some of us have been lucky enough to be involved. Deborah has been working in film since the age of 19. I don't know what I was doing at 19, with a passion for storytelling that goes back even further. Wow. Now, her unconventional journey began with her assisting with an independent short film production, which eventually led her to writing and producing feature-length documentary called Searching for Amani, which won awards at the Tribeca and Raindance Film Festivals this year. Congratulations, Deborah. Above all, she believes storytelling can change minds and lives, which is true. And she's now fully immersed in documentary filmmaking, focused on telling meaningful stories that have a lasting impact on both her communities and audiences. And before Deborah comes in, here's a snippet of her work.
Every single family here has a story to tell.
But the more that believe and trust in you, your community follows through.
Climate change is a daily reality.
Bomu yanategwa ardhini na hawa panya tunawafundisha.
Tunavyowafundisha tunafanya kuniamini, trust.
Lakini mwanamke ndio nyumba yako isimame.
የእናቴ በሽታ ነው በቃ ካለችበት ስቃይ ብታደጋት.
But now the country is facing a crisis as demand for oxygen grows.
Many people are dying because of dirty water.
We commission this water in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
It's really more instrumental now, more than ever, that we invest strongly at the community level.
Tena hakuna kitu tunapenda kufanya kama kushughulikia wanakijiji.
Having worked at the community, we've built a rapport with them as well.
And these are the things that make me want to do what I do.
Majageri to Tigo to Bulgore, Yanga Winyota.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Randall, for such a wonderful introduction. It's so lovely to be here with you all, and although virtually. And I would also like to thank the team at Blue Ventures, Matt, Randall, everyone, for selecting such a strong panel that's very interconnected. It's not very often that as a speaker, I find so many meeting points and connections with other panelists and other speakers. So I love that all our work overlaps into each other, and we are all feeding into making an impact and changing the world in our own little ways. So as Randall said, my name is Deborah Rocco, and I am the Africa Communities Manager for the Video Consortium. I was the former Programs Manager for the now concluded Solution Storytelling Project Africa, which was run by the Video Consortium and supported by the Skoll Foundation and DocuBox East Africa Documentary Film Fund. VC is the premier nonfiction video community uniting documentary filmmakers and video journalists all around the globe to tell stories that create a positive impact. And because of that, or through that, the Solution Storytelling Project was born. And that is the trailer you just watched. The Solution Storytelling Project brought together 20 filmmakers from all over Africa and paired them with 19 change makers or socially solutions-focused enterprises and NGOs across Africa, and allowed them to tell stories of the people making the most impact within the communities from their communities. So the approach for that was, once again, similar to what Kiara and Amber mentioning, putting the power in the hands of the people, allowing them to express themselves, allowing them to tell their stories, allowing them to take control of their own narratives through video and through film. Like I said, we made the films from across Africa. We provided funding and technical and educational support to the filmmakers. Our approach was to use already existing filmmakers within the communities and within the countries where we made the film, because we wanted to tap in and bolster the creative economy in those countries as well. Filmmakers, just like researchers and scientists, are professionals. This is the things that they train and dream of doing for their entire lives. And, I am a filmmaker myself. I have been working for years on this. So it was important for us to use the already existing skill base within those nations and within those communities to tell these very important stories. So our approach to that was, once again, pairing filmmakers within those nations with NGOs that work and have impact within those nations, allow them to co-create the stories, allow them to identify figureheads or volunteers, whoever they feel like represents the story of their organization. One rule was they had to be from the grassroots. They had to be people on the ground making actual impact. Not that founders are not amazing, incredible people, but we feel like the stories that have the most impact, the stories that are most relatable, are the stories that come from the people who are actually doing the work on the ground. So through that, we were able to make 19 incredible short films, some of which have gone ahead to win awards. 3 of our films won Telly Awards. 3 of our films, including one which I will highlight during this talk, were acquired by Scientific American and Al Jazeera, further raising the profile of the storytellers, the profile of the people of the community, and the profiles of the NGOs. So I will be focusing on 3 films. I was asked to focus on the East African region and the films that we made in the East African region. And the one I will begin with was Bahari Bingwa, which was the film that was created by Samuel Wanjohi, who's a Kenyan filmmaker, and it highlighted the work of Bahari High, which is supported or works with Blue Ventures, and that's how I got to meet Matt and Randall and the entire Blue Ventures team. Bahari High focuses on Sami Safari, who is an anti-poaching ranger who works to protect the turtles from poaching, and his approach is through education and starting from the ground up. So teaching children about the importance of conservation, the importance of marine life and marine animals, passing down the ancient knowledge that he learned from his grandfather down to those kids, along with the scientific and the technical knowledge that he has gained through his work with Bahari High and Blue Ventures. Sami Safari and Sam Wanjohi, the filmmaker, were paired very early on, and Sam, the filmmaker, was asked to go into Sami's world, Sami Safari's world, and learn about what he does, learn about the impact he creates, and figure out how to tell a story in a way that is skilled, in a way that is cinematic and engaging. Because we come from cinema or film, it is important for us to create engaging, creative narratives that still, once again, highlight the solutions, highlight what organizations are doing in their countries without it feeling too advertising or making you feel bogged down by facts and statistics, which are important. They're very important, but do not always convey the heart of what the work is doing or what they're trying to do. And that is why it was important for us, again, to tell stories, to tell creative narratives, and to involve filmmakers who already have that experience. So it was a learning process for both the filmmakers and the NGOs, but the hope and the impact for that was, first of all, that this to raise awareness about the work being done. Two, to raise the profiles of the organizations and the people leading the organizations and the people doing the work, but also to provide means for filmmakers to create and carve out sustainable livelihoods from the work that they do. Because it was important to us to highlight the skills and the abilities of the local talent. It was very clear that for a long time, NGOs had overlooked local filmmakers contributing to emissions because of the cost and the time it took to fly in professionals, but also watering down the narratives, watering down the stories that were being told, because people, again, because you're bringing in outsiders when insider filmmakers already existed, and you are not allowing them to grow and to tell stories as filmmakers. You are not allowing them to become aware of the change and the solutions that are being led by their own people within their own communities, because you are not allowing them to tell their stories. So through this project, again, the talent and the abilities of the local talent showed through, but also the ability to connect with the communities, the ability to understand the language, the ability to translate the language, and to tell the stories in a way that can be consumed by new audiences, because this is their job as filmmakers. Their jobs as cinematographers, their jobs as sound professionals. So you are not retraining, you are not reintroducing new skills. You're using whatever we have on the ground, the talent are available in the local communities to tell the stories and to create impact. Another story I would like to highlight is The Island of Hope, which was a story about Dr. Jacques Sebisaho, who founded one of the only hospitals in the remote island of Idri, together with his wife. They are tackling or single-handedly carrying the entire healthcare system within this nation, within the small island of Idri off the coast of the Congo, or within Lake Kivu. Again, this is a story that would have never been heard or never been told because of how remote Idri is, because of how difficult it is to get there. It would have cost too much to bring someone in. So this could have only been achieved through the power of local storytelling and the power of local storytellers, and empowering them and giving them the support that they need to achieve that. Within the approach for VC, once again, similar to Amber's approach, is very hands-off because we're dealing with professionals. What we did provide is virtual trainings and workshops to help them upskill their already existing skills and talent base to make them to give them the ability to create films and tell stories that can be viewed at a global level and compete at a global level and gain the attention that is needed in order to create the impact that we need. And since we are an impact-focused organization, impact for the film was very much important to us. And so we created an impact guidebook or workbook for both the organizations and the filmmakers. We didn't want the films to just live on the platforms. The films were publicly available. That was important to us. They were promoted and shared widely. Organically, collectively, they have gathered hundreds and thousands of views, and part of it was the strategy we used in rolling them out to help the momentum of one film build the other, rolling them out in batches using similar branding and marketing to create familiarity, to create basically a series without them being sequential in any way, but using, again, the momentum built from one film to build up the other films. And that contributed to impact, but within the guidebook, we also expressed or give them tools and guidelines on how to host community screenings, prioritizing community screenings, how to utilize film festivals, how to utilize platforms, how to get in touch with these platforms. That was part of the training as well, to make sure that the stories get out there, that people see the stories, that people get to experience the change that is happening. And that was the heart of the program and what we were trying to do, what we were trying to highlight, the solutions that are being created locally, solutions that are being driven locally, told locally. You saw in the trailer, it is just local people from all over Africa doing amazing things that I would have never thought was happening in Africa. It is meant to inspire others, inspire within the community, also change how the continent is viewed, but also highlight that the work that is being done by these amazing NGOs. The Solution Storytelling Project has now moved to Latin America. It is in its production phase. So 19 other films are being made in the Latin America region, and we have just kicked off our SSP Asia program. So we've put out calls for NGOs and filmmakers to submit proposals or to submit their profiles as filmmakers and to submit their organizations and the work that they do in Asia in order to be able to participate in the project. So if you know anyone or any organization or any filmmakers who you feel would benefit, please send them our information, the Video Consortium's information, so that they can join. And I think I just kept that a bit under 15 minutes. I'm looking at the time, like 20 seconds. But yes, so you can watch all our films on the Video Consortium website. Just type in Video Consortium and you will see the Solution Storytelling Project. You can also watch it on YouTube. And yes, would love for you to be able to experience the change and experience all the amazing work being done on the continent and the power of localized storytelling, tapping into local talent or training as Amber does, local people to tell their stories, and as Water Bear does, empowering NGOs and communities to tell their own stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Just as I was watching your teaser, I couldn't help but feel a sudden, gush of emotion, and could help but think that is what really science, research, and conservation needs, so that we can connect to more people, can connect to policymakers, government, resource managers, and those communities that are being impacted more, the general public. So thank you so much. To our audience, we've come to the time of Q&A, but a virtual clap to Deborah, Kiara, and Amber as we head on to our Q&A. And yeah, there they are. I need to wave to the audience. Thank you so much for taking your time to speak to us. We've got a couple of questions coming in from the audience. The first one off is fired to Amber. And Juliet would like to know what motivated the community to participate in the project. Were there any incentives that encouraged their involvement?
Thank you, and amazing talks, Chiara and Deborah. So we worked with youth in Madagascar. We worked with youth groups, and these youth groups they're quite involved in kind of community issues already. That's kind of their main role and motivation for being together. So we worked with engaged individuals, and we would give them a per diem for their time. So often they would not be fishing, or they would not be doing their work because they were doing this project. So we make sure that they wouldn't be losing out at all by taking part in the video making. And the same in Indonesia. We kind of engaged with individuals in the community who are really engaged in issues already, and made sure that they weren't losing out for their time. So we paid them a per diem. So yeah,
that's quite interesting. This one can be answered by either Chiara or Deborah. What's the best way an NGO can prepare or package the key story or information about their work so that brands are biting to say yes, basically pushing towards that collaboration with you?
Deborah, you want to go first, or I can go and then?
Yeah, go first, Chiara.
Okay, thanks. To me, my experience, and thanks for the question, and also want to say both to Deborah and Amber, very, very inspiring talks, and I like that our work are so aligned as well. I can learn from you guys as well. But yeah, the most effective way for me, I've been working now whatever for 3 years, and I've had this kind of pitches to a lot of brands, and when NGOs have their stories, how they can pitch best to brands is basically their partner with an organization, of course, like as like a media organization that can really effectively turn the story into a treatment that also has like an appeal to brands. Or also, if you're doing that by yourself, making sure you know how to build the treatment for that is can be quite a commercial, and also reaching out to the right type of brands, because not all brands are going to be interested in ocean stories. So you need to reach out to brands that are aligned with your mission. They have got sustainability at the core of what they're doing, reaching out to corporate social responsibility departments, especially not to their marketing department, because probably they're not going to be interested, as the marketing department usually pushes the brand, but not what they're doing in terms of corporate social responsibility. So that would be the main takeaway. But Deborah, go ahead if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think Chiara kind of covered it in terms of brands, because we haven't really partnered with brands. The thing that we do is how to package the stories so that they're not palatable, but more appealing to larger media organizations. Randall, how we packaged your film in order for Scientific American to pick it up, in order for it to get featured for them. Again, it ties a lot into what Chiara said. Look at the organizations, what they do, the style of stories that they highlight. So for example, with AG Plus or Al Jazeera, for now, they are focusing on the impact of conflict in Africa and the Middle East for now. So finding stories, or if your work is within that or has touch points with them, it is very easy for them to come on and to profile their stories. It doesn't have to exactly be what they highlight, but again, finding key touch points with whatever you do, finding a way to connect to their brand or their messages, their messaging should open up new doors for you.
Oh, thank you, Chiara and Deborah. Just a follow-up for you, Amber. How do you select participants?
So kind of similar to what I said before, we do try to find people that are engaged within the community around issues that they're interested in making the film about. I would say key to that is, especially for me, has been those relationships with NGOs that have a really strong and trusting relationship and a knowledge about the community. So Blue Ventures and Planet Indonesia have both worked in the regions that we've done the participatory projects for a long time, and we work with local partners. So from their experience, they could identify community members that might be interested in taking part, and then we kind of approach them and ask if they would be interested. It's completely up to them. They can say yes or no if they want to take part.
That's interesting. Deborah, what can NGOs do to invest in their locally based teams, either to learn film skills? Are there any resources that you can recommend? How and when should NGOs approach media outlets for distribution? Because you mentioned Scientific American, and how did that opportunity come to fruition? This is information that can actually help a lot of NGOs out here.
Yes, so that's a great question. So for the how to access media organizations, again, this goes back to the power of community. We were able to get in touch with Scientific American, the New Yorker, New York Times, because of the community that we have built through the video consortium. So we are a community of filmmakers, and the way filmmakers work, Randall, I'm sure, or the filmmakers within who are watching the stream, I'm sure understand this, is a lot of it is by sharing connections and sharing your networks with people who you know. So I would advise the NGOs to once again look into the local filmmakers, participate in local filmmaker events, go to festivals, see what the works that they're doing, engage with them and talk to them. They might not always come to you because they might not always be aware that that is what you're looking for, but this is the best place for you to find that. And they will, again, local filmmakers, local film productions, local talent will be the best way for you to be able to package yourself or prepare yourself or create the content that you need. And often I think people might hesitate because you believe that it might be expensive or it might be outside of your budget. But trust me, again, working local, you've split your overheads or the filmmaker overheads in half. And a lot of them, because they are from the community and they see the transformation and the benefit that these stories or your work is having on the community, a lot of them will be willing to collaborate with you in any or in some sort of way and allow you to gain access again to their equipment or to their networks or to their skills as storytellers, in order for you to create the stories that you need to create and platform them so that people gain their awareness. So for me, I would say tap into your local creative industry. They're there, they're waiting for you.
Great, thank you, Deborah. Homegrown solutions.
Homegrown solutions.
Great. Kiara, you're up next. When working with brands and commercial partners, do you ever have issues with greenwashing? And is there a due diligence process that you can rely on for conservation partners to make that happen? It's an interesting one. I'm glad to hear how you tackle this.
Thanks so much for this question, because it's a very important question and a question that we are constantly aware of and constantly we have a due diligence process in place. That is quite strict. We don't make any deals or any commercial partnerships with any polluting companies. Big no to oil companies, pharmaceutical companies, fast fashion companies, and so that's as a start, let's say. But then there are loads of like foundations or lots of like gray areas, of course, of different type of companies. So what we do, we have one person from our account management team that does a full due diligence on the company itself when it's kind of like a company that could be gray area or not 100%, like fitting in these categories of people that we do not engage or work with. And through this process, they really look into if the company itself is actually putting the money where they're putting their mouth and their marketing efforts to say that they're doing all these incredible initiatives, and what are the long-term impacts of their funding and their investments as well. So for us, that's key. And then once we work with them, we make sure also that the story they're telling is a story that can actually create some type of change or impact. There is a campaign related that will create that will lead to an action where people can actually make an impact. So it's never going to be about like a brand kind of where the brand is like very, very present on the documentary, but the brand is just a means to bring a story to life, but it doesn't mean that there's gonna be, if we do a story with Rolex, there's gonna be Rolex watches in the documentary itself. That's not what we're doing. It's just basically the means to fund the funding to tell the story. I hope that was clear enough.
Yes, quite clear. Thank you, Sarah. To our audience, in the interest of time, we'll just have one more general question to all our speakers, and we'll try and actually answer the rest of the questions post this session. And here's a question: what is the most effective duration for a marine conservation story to maximize engagement and impact, and also show transformation? I'll start with you, Amber.
I feel like others on the panel might be more knowledgeable at this. We try to make our films they range between 7 and 15 minutes. It really depends on kind of the amount of footage and the interviews that are undertaken. I would say something about the participatory video films that we created is that they're unpolished films. They're kind of they're unpolished, and they are less kind of films for entertainment, but films to really get the message across and to achieve some objective that's been identified by the community. So I guess that is what really is our motivation for the length, is how are we going to get the main points across?
7 to 15, sweet spot. Deborah, your thoughts?
I would agree with Amber, but it also depends on where you're showing the film and which audiences you're looking to engage. If it's already established audiences who care about the subject matter, then you can definitely make a longer film because they are interested in understanding the world. So it depends on the approach, the type of film that you've made, but focusing mostly on short films because I think that's where we all work on. For me, I would say, again, the 7 to 15 minute range is good. 10 minutes is usually a good sweet spot. And then always be aware of the fact that since you're drawing in new audiences and new media, and social media is basically where people learn about things, you can always make a very interesting, catchy cut down of your film, like the teaser that I showed, the teaser that Chiara showed, like very action oriented, that kind of piques the mind of the audience member to.
Sorry, I guess we lost Deborah there a bit. I think I can finish for her. A teaser that piques the interest of the viewers, and that is what social media would help us to achieve. We're not going to wait for her to join because we are running out of time. We'll just end there and head on straight to the summary. And I think to our audience today, we've seen the importance of community involvement in video storytelling. And there's quite a lot of potential in the power of entertainment and the value of investing in video and video production and storytelling in NGOs and communities and the work that you do if you're a brand. Now, I'd just like to thank each of our speakers for their valuable and diverse inputs, and encourage you all to check the work of Amber and C-Voice, the work of Chiara and Waterbear, and the work of Deborah and the Video Consortium. And these are all fantastic resources for all of us, so please do make the most out of them. In addition to giving the valuable insight today, our speakers have also been viewing and judging all the submissions that have gone into the Ocean Guardians Film Festival. I can tell you that it was a tough competition because there were so many good films that were submitted to the festival. But we are thrilled to announce our 2 winners in this first year's festival. And the first winning film comes from C3 Philippines, and it's A Tale of Struggle and Strength, which explores one community's efforts to restore critical seabed habitats in the Philippines. Now, our judges said the film was visually stunning, with excellent camera, color grading, and sound design that captures the story's essence while maintaining a well-paced, engaging narrative. Here's a teaser.
Underneath the calm waters of Rojas, there's a fascinating world where lively green seagrass meadows sway with the ocean's flow. But within this tranquil scene, there's also a tale of struggle. and strength.
Sa Philippines, meron tayong more or less 18 species ng seagrasses and 13 nun makikita sa buong Palawan. More than half nung 13 na species ng seagrasses sa Palawan, around 8 to 9, yun yung nakikita sa Rojas. Marami tayong marine ecosystem, meron tayong mangroves, coral reefs, and seagrasses. Sa tatlong ito, yung seagrasses, isa siya sa mas nagde-decline. Kasi kulang yung kaalaman ng tao tungkol sa seagrasses. O kung hindi man kulang, binabaliwala nila.
Pagtungtong ko pa lang dito noon, 2002, mostly mga tao dito talagang walang pagpapahalaga sa, yan, sigras na, parang, di ba? Wala lang, ginubunot-bunot pa. Akala nila kasi noon, walang silbi kasi nga, Makati, totoo lang yan, parang noon, parang hinaharbis nila para may madaanan.
Wow, I was also getting lost in the teaser, and I was hoping that it would take more time for all of us to watch the full film, but please watch it in the festival. Our second award-winning film comes from Treasure Shack Indonesia and filmmaker Naomi Mars, and it's called Phoebe Lawton Calling. Phoebe Lawton Calling follows Phoebe's incredible path from growing up in a small fishing village to becoming the first female fisher in her community. If you're those of us who work with fisher communities, you know how much of a big deal that is. And our judges said the film is a beautifully shot and thoughtful paced piece that delivers an emotive and inspiring message, particularly uplifting for women in fisheries and conservation. Its poetic and intimate portrayal tells a powerful story that blends personal narrative, delicate color grading, strong sound design, and congratulations to both of these winning films and the filmmakers. So here's a little clip from Phoebe.
Belajar menyelam seperti sebuah hadiah. Selama menjadi bagian Conservation Champion, saya belajar tentang berbagai jenis kehidupan laut. Namun, saat saya berada di bawah air untuk pertama kalinya, saya menyadari ada begitu banyak hal lain. Ini seperti dunia yang benar-benar berbeda. Momen ini yang membuat saya jatuh hati pada terumbu karang. Melihat berbagai bentuk dan warna karang yang berbeda membuat saya penasaran. Tidak banyak yang diketahui tentang terumbu karang di Alor. Saya ingin membantu melakukan penelitian dan mengumpulkan data untuk membantu dalam konservasi karang.
Wow, amazing. I've not watered that down. These films will be showing throughout the month, and please grab your festival tickets if you have not done that. Now, just to summarize all this, I'd like to encourage all organizations, whether large or small, to consider how video can be used more strategically to amplify your mission and so that you can truly engage different audiences. Now, I'd like to shout out, major shout out to our audience coming in from Croatia, the UK, Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, Madagascar, Indonesia, Tanzania, Wales, India, and all around the world joining in through our live stream YouTube. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. And as we end this webinar, I'd like to thank our speakers, Amber, Kiara, and Deborah, and our organizers and technical team, Matthew Judge, Megan Francis, the Waterbend Network, the Video Consortium. And now we know how video storytelling can supercharge your conservation impact. Please don't forget to keep it hooked at the Ocean Guardians Film Festival. Thank you once again. And here's a final teaser from the festival. Thank you.
Kita kan sa bahasa dersandet kemudian labana orang labanas so kan lefin ba orang lain orang sambal to kalau korai nem ikan at bisi pun dia ne asai tamu tu ya faten so berak ne to kuliah sa ni hal ikan maus orang ni si kuan ni hal mati dia ni san net bot la dia.
For millennia, corals grow to form amazing atolls and barrier reefs. But it is only once you get up close you realise their true wonder. Corals form a special partnership, or symbiosis, with tiny algae that live inside the coral's tissues called zooxanthellae.
You throw a piece of plastic into the water. It lands up into the ocean. Somewhere down the line it's going to disintegrate. It's not going to decompose, it's going to disintegrate into smaller fragments. It's going to be eaten by the fish. The fish are going to be eaten by man. So ultimately you're engulfing the same plastic you threw.
Na napikwa ama najipika pia niweze kuja kuwa kiongozi wa CFA na baadaye hata kuwa kiongozi wa jamii kwa ujumla na maanisha. Mimi nimeshika laini na nisingependa nifaidike peke yangu sababu nimeona huko mbele kuna faida kweli. Kwa hiyo kitu ambacho nimefanya mara kwanza nilijaribu kuunda group ya self help group na tukapata certificate.
We realized that if we want to strengthen this community long term, we need to include the future generation. We want to create opportunities for the young people of Alor, so they can help protect their islands.
Saya memiliki minat yang besar pada isu lingkungan dan juga konservasi. Namun saya masih memiliki keterbatasan pengetahuan dan kesempatan untuk melakukan upaya konservasi ke lautan.
We started the Conservation Champion program with the goal to inspire them, teach them about marine conservation and marine policies. Their dedication and their curiosity to explore and learn about the ocean is inspiring.